So we're going to start this forecast for 2026. Ugh. Look, whole bunch of stuff already going on. Got my words twisted. But we are starting with the Egyptian tarot deck. It's the first deck I ever got. So it's funny that we're starting here with this reading. And yeah, we're going to give these cards a shuffle and see what messages they have to say about the upcoming year. So what do we need to know? What do we need to meditate upon? What do we need to understand? What do we need to reflect upon? What do we need to contemplate? What do we need to know? What do we need to release? What do we need to integrate? What do we need to focus on? What do we need to recede from? What do we need to know? So, for the reading, it's going to be fairly simple. We'll have the heart card, the challenge, and then the underlying card will be what's the underlying theme that we'll work with for this year. So going with that, underneath we have the Knight of Wands reversed. We have the Ace of Cups in the heart position. Very interesting. And then we have the Three of Wands as the challenge. So starting with the Knight of Wands. The Knight of Wands signals to me a sense of our ambitions being stifled when it comes to expressing them or communicating them properly, our desires and whatnot, all of that being all of us needing to think about how we're going forward with them. With knights there, because this is the figure that's on the horse, this is a figure in movement. This is a character that likes to get action done, that leads to move forward. And when you're dealing with wands, you're dealing with the fire, and you're dealing with fire in the element of ambition and desire and all the things that are energetic to us. The things that, that excite us, move us to chorus, that kinetic aspect. The fact that it's reversed, it shows us that we might need to practice some reflection before we move and whatnot, and look at if some things are being stifled, ask yourself why. Is it being stifled because of some of the patterns we might be enacting internally that we might overlook, or is it being stifled by outside forces? And can we do it? When we know how to name it, it helps us with being able to resolve it. And so leading that, because there's a part of me that kind of leans towards the former as well as the outer. And the reason why is because we have the heart card, we have the Ace of Cups, excuse me. And the Ace of Cups signifies new connections. Ace is the number 1, and that means initiation. Cups deal with relationships, emotions, also the body, the part of the body that connects with other bodies. And so, the common term for this card is like new love or new desires or beginning relationships. So is this a new relationship with ourselves, of other people, with all of that? That's something to consider. I know with 2026, there's been this, I've heard a lot of people mention that there's this energy of 2026 being a new cycle, if you will. Like every new year is a new chapter, but like 2026 is signaling to a lot of people that, or is being interpreted by a lot of people as just, this is a new era, like a graduation of sorts. I know the numerologists have pointed out that this year is a number 1 year, since all the numbers in 2026 equal 1, but they also equal 10. So then, which is a number of completion and the ending as well. So there's that duality there. So that's why I think this card showing up is pretty poignant. Then we have the Three of Wands as the challenge. Now with the Three of Wands, there's a sense of, because 3 signifies creativity, and wands, like I said before, were our desires. And so with the Three of Wands being the card, it signals to me that our challenge is, how are we using our ambitions in a creative way, in a way that fosters expansion, and where is it taking? Where's that? And where are we expanding to, if you will? That's the challenge we have to consider. Like, yes, we have our ambitions. Yes, we want what we want, but what is it doing for us, and what is it doing for those around us as well? And going forward with that. So while we have that, let's also look at Sonia Choquette's Trust Your Vibes. Let's see what supporting messages they have to offer as well. Oof, let me move this out the way. Move y'all off to the side. Yes. And funny enough, this is one of the first Oracle decks I ever got as well. So, also lovely. And then we'll also have Oracle of Oddities, one of my favorites, if you will. Well, all my Oracle cards are my favorites, hence why I've kept them for so long. Just for different reasons. like I mentioned before, we're also going to be using the Earthbound Oracle. So, what do you love? All right. So this is why I love the Trust Your Vibes deck by Sonia Choquette or Choquette. I think I'm pronouncing her name right, or their name right. I hope so. But it's because the messages are usually straightforward, along with the art being very lovely, if you will. But for this one, it's what do you love? And it fits perfectly with, as I said before, the Ace of Cups, where, like I said, Ace of Cups is about new love. And so now we have to ask yourself, that's the question, one of the questions you can ask, what do you love? What actually inspires you? What actually moves you to chorus? What actually, makes you feel good and makes you feel secure? What do you love? What has your love? What has your heart? What has your mind, your attention? What has your spirit? Really ask yourself that. And what is it doing for you? We also have Goddess. So this can be speaking about the sense of the divine feminine, and looking at, I wonder, I can't identify this flower, but it's interesting. But like a sense of divinity, and look towards, all the narratives that we have surrounding the divine feminine. And no, this is not a message to say that like automatically you should think about stereotypical feminine things. No. As we all know, the divine feminine is far from the colonial imagination of femininity. But that's another topic. But with, like I said, with Goddess, it just makes me think of, goddesses of, for instance, Aphrodite. In the narratives, you think of Aphrodite, and yes, she's a goddess of love and beauty and, sensuality. But she has very fearsome moments, right? Like if you've ever read the Iliad, Aphrodite was down there right along with Athena and Ares and all these other gods in the middle of a battlefield. She also was there. So just think about that. Think about where is the divine feminine showing up is one thing to consider. And then we have voice. Yeah. What are you giving voice to? What is your mode of expression? What is your sense of, what? Ooh, another thing that just clicked. Like I said with the, make sure I say it right. With the Knight of Wands, like I said, the knights are the ones that communicate whatever idea is going on with the suit. And if wands are about our desires and our ambitions, how are we communicating those? How are we communicating the energy that exists within us? And is it helping us find ourselves? Is it also helping us find our community? This is a wolf that's being depicted. Wolves howl like any other animal, they make a noise, whatever noise it might be. Birds chirp, bees will buzz, grasshoppers and crickets will creak and whatnot. They do that as a form of communication and as a form of communing with other people and as a form of connection as well. So, what are you doing this year to connect with other people, with yourself, with other people? That is the focus point. So, if you're choosing this path, the message is, the theme is, how are you communicating? How are you communing? And then what is it doing for you when you start these communions? Is it just from a place of habit, or are you doing it with an intention that you grow and exercise or tap into a fecundity, if you will, like that's in you. That's a word right there, fecundity. But there's like a fertility about it. There's a sense of you really growing and really building something. And is this for the betterment? That's the focus. That's the message I'm getting. Yeah. And so, like, yeah, that's the path that comes into play. And it makes sense. At the beginning of the year, everyone's doing, at least at the beginning of the year in the Gregorian calendar, it's typically when everyone's ready to start something new, ready to move into creating something new. And I hope people understand that, like, everything doesn't have to be brand new. Sometimes the new creation may come from just incorporating new practices. It might just come from incorporating, new practices, new habits. Maybe, and it doesn't have to be some drastic thing, right? Maybe, you decide you're going to eat. Maybe it's something that you're going to eat. Maybe you're going to eat, maybe you pick once a month. Hey, once a month, you're going to cook something. Or maybe you do something like every day for 30 minutes, you're going to practice breathing. Or maybe not even for 30 minutes. Maybe for 5 minutes before when you wake up, you're going to practice some breathing exercises. Every day when you wake up, as opposed to picking up your phone. Those little things feed and build and grow into something new. And that's why I think it's good to look at the presence of the cups, the Ace of Cups, because some things are built by brick, and then some things are built by cells, by yes, houses are built by brick, and that's very hard, and that's very square and cornered and clean cut. But some things are built. The cells are the building blocks of life, and they're considered the building blocks of life for a reason. Organic things that fit into life and how we as human beings live, they're not always done in such tidy, clean ways. There's some messiness. It's not going to be easily shaped. It's not going to be so instantaneously happen overnight. Nothing happens overnight. But it can happen over some weeks. It happens over the day. It happens over the months. And then, of course, it happens over the year and then the years. So always keep that in mind, too. I think should be kept in mind. And so with that, just think of that when it comes to creativity. Like, something, this popped up, and I know this was popping up before New Year's Eve happened, but it's like, the day you plant the seed is not the day you eat the fruit. Think about that. You have to water the seed over time. And really understanding that sense of time is crucial, especially when we talk about where we're putting our energy into, right? So like that's why the Knight of Wands and the Three of Wands, those connecting in that way. What have you been putting your energy into? We could look at the past and see that. Like, what have you been putting all your time into? Have you been investing it in a friendship? that isn't helpful? Have you invested it into, you know, a romantic relationship, into a career, into a job, you know, all these things? Look at how much time you've given it and what has been building and what has been growing. And going back to what I said, is this building up the betterment? Growth can be you allowed, you know, a beautiful flower to grow, like the flower you see in the goddess picture and the goddess card. It can also be the mold. So take that. And that's that on that. So thank you for these messages. And with that, we'll set these cards aside. And yeah, take what resonates and leave what doesn't. So now the next deck we're going to work with is the Many Doors Tarot. The Many Doors Tarot, created by Felix Kawitzky. It is a beautiful deck. Very simple, minimalist color scheme, but such an impactful imagery. Like I say, they're inspired by science fiction as well as fantasy. So writers like Ursula K. Le Guin, Octavia Butler, Dahlgren, several others. And when they developed this deck, and I just love the messages it often brings. Again, not the best at shuffling, but I make it work. So what do we need to know? What do we need to meditate upon? What do we need to understand? What do we need to reconsider, reflect upon? What do we need to release? What do we need to abandon? What do we need to integrate? What do we need to take hold of? What do we need to know? So as I said, Many Doors Tarot, created by Felix Kawitzky. It is a beautiful deck. Very simple, minimalist color scheme, but such an impactful imagery. They're inspired by science fiction as well as fantasy. So writers like Ursula K. Le Guin, Octavia Butler, Dahlgren, several others. And when they developed this deck, and I just love the messages it often brings. Again, not the best at shuffling, but I make it work. So what do we need to know? What do we need to meditate on? What do we need to understand? What do we need to reconsider, reflect upon? What do we need to release? What do we need to abandon? What do we need to integrate? What do we need to take hold of? What do we need to know? There's the heart. There's the challenge. And so we have the underlying card. Ooh, okay. So let's see, can y'all see that? So this is the Five of Potions, also known as the Five of Cups, reversed. I think this is one of the most infamous of the minor arcana cards. So that'll be interesting to see. There we go. And then with this, we have 7 of Wires, which is traditionally known as the 7 of Swords. So that'll be interesting as well. And that's a challenge card. And then at the heart of the cards, we have Ace of Potions reversed. Ooh. Okay. Ace of Potions showing up but reversed this time. Interesting. So starting with the the Five of Potions reversed, it's immediately making me think of, because the card centers on conflicts in connections, and it centers on
There's the challenge.
how sometimes
And so we have the underlying
no one really
card.
wins whenever there's like
Ooh, okay.
an argument
Let's see if we can see
within
that.
the relationship.
So this is the
At least that's one way to look at
Five
it.
of Potions,
And it looks at the
also known
fact
as
that
the
there's a
Five of
sense of
Cups,
perspective
reversed.
that's needed. Because typically
I
when
think
it's
this is one of the most
upright, the image is meant to
minor
denote
arcana
how,
cards.
well, yes, there are three
So
of
that'll
the
be
cups
interesting
spilled.
to see.
There's two that are still standing and have the
This
water.
we have
And oftentimes we don't focus
seven
on the
of
two that are still
wires.
filled. We'll talk about the three that
which is
are
traditionally known as the Seven
spilled.
of Swords. So that'll be interesting.
And it makes
as
sense,
well.
right? There's more water spilled and there's more
And
water
that's a challenge card.
still within its
And
container.
at the heart of the cards we have
And so it's valid.
Ace of
And that's the valid thing about
Potions
grief. There's a lot of emotions that are valid.
okay. Ace of Potions showing up, but reversed this time. Interesting.
Showing up here, it
So
signals to
starting
me
with
we might need to look into
Five of
what are we
Potions
grieving,
reversed. It's
because that means
immediately
we've gone
making me think of,
through
'cause the card
a
centers
major
on
change. And listen,
conflicts,
2025
meaning,
was, like I said, it was a doozy. It was a
connections.
rough one. And there's some things
And
we're
it
not going to
centers
get back.
on
2025 took some stuff,
how
and
sometimes
we can sing and chant and rant all we want to.
no one really wins whenever there's
but we're not
like
going to be able to take that
an
back.
argument within a
Such is
relationship.
life.
At least that's one way
But
to
we
look at
still
it.
have some
And it
things
looks
in
at the
place.
fact that there's a sense
And I
of
think that's
perspective
important
that's
to
needed.
note
typically when
when
it's
we
upright,
do,
The image
when
is
we
meant
look
to
at life and
denote
when we look,
how,
reflect upon
well, yes,
what
there
we're
are
going
three
through.
of the cups spilled.
And then it also
There's
fits with
two
the
that are
Ace of
still
Potions.
standing and have
Perhaps
the water.
we started
And
out to do
oftentimes we don't
something
focus on
in the past
two
and
that
it
are
did
still
not pan
filled.
out
Talk
how
about
we
the three
wanted it to.
that are spilled.
You know, maybe we had something
And
in
it makes
mind.
sense,
Maybe we were
right?
brewing
There's
a
more
nice
water
potion
spilled
for
and
our
there's more
lives,
water,
and
still
it
within its
spilled over.
container.
And it's not
So
doing
it's valid. That's the valid thing
what
about
it's
grief.
supposed to
There's
be.
a lot
Or
of
it didn't
emotions that
bring
are
us what it's
valid.
supposed to bring. That's just what happens.
Showing up here,
Again, such as
it
life.
signals to
We
me
can
we
be
might
sad.
need to
We can
look
have.
into,
It's valid for us to be sad about what we wanted to see happen and what
what are we
didn't come to
grieving?
fruition. The
because
point
that
is to
means
not be
we've gone
stuck
through
in it.
a major change. And listen,
That's the main
2025
thing.
was, like I said, it was a doozy. It was a rough one.
And that's where I
And there's some
think
things we're not going to get
the
back.
Seven of Swords
2025
comes
took
into
some
play.
stuff,
Or
and
Seven of
we can
Wires,
sing and
excuse
chant
me.
and rant all we
But
want
like I
to.
said, it's traditionally known as the
We're
Seven
not going to be able
of
to take
Swords.
that back.
It looks at us
Such is
to
life.
consider how we're thinking about our
But we still
situation
have some things in place. And I think that's
and what we're
important
doing, what
to
we're,
note when we do,
how we're looking at it.
when we look at life and when we look
Because
reflect upon what we're going
the potions represent our emotions in the situation.
and then it also
If we
fits
step
with the
back
Ace of Potions,
and we
perhaps
examine the
we
facts,
started out to do
right,
something
like the
in the
quantifiable facts.
past, and it did not
You know,
pan
1 is
out
1, 2 is
how we
2,
wanted
2
it
plus
to.
2 equals 4. Those things that we can actually measure,
You
and
know,
those are very
maybe we had
concrete.
something in mind. Maybe we were brewing a
It
nice
can help
potion
us
for our
navigate
lives,
these emotions.
and
We
it
still have to
spilled
feel
over,
them. They
and
still
it's
have to
not
flow through us.
doing
But it helps us
what it's
direct the
supposed
flow
to be, or
and
it
make sure that
bring us what
there's
it's
not
supposed to bring.
anything pulling,
That's just what
pooling,
happens.
P-O-O-L, you know, creating a puddle and
Again,
stagnant
such as life, we can
within
be sad.
ourselves.
We can have. It's valid for us to be sad.
Another thing to
about
also
what
consider,
we wanted to
5
see
is a
happen,
number.
didn't come to fruition.
Sorry.
The point is to
5
not be
is a
stuck in
number
it.
that's also associated with change,
That's the main thing.
but it's associated with change
And that's where I think
that comes with
the
conflict.
Seven of Swords.
Right, there's a
comes into
friction with this
play. Or
particular
Seven
type
of
of change.
Wires,
It's
excuse me. But like I said, it's
and then,
traditionally known
yeah,
as the
and
Seven
so
of
that's
Swords.
another reason why, like,
It looks at us
why
to
I brought up friction within a
consider
relationship.
how we're thinking about our situation.
When it comes to the 5 of Potions reversed,
and what we're doing, what we're
I wouldn't be
how
surprised
we're
if
looking at it.
2025
because
led to us
the
looking
potions
at the way
represent
we
our
connect with
emotions in
other
this situation.
people and why
If
we
we
connect with
step
other
back
people,
and we examine the facts,
as well as how we connect with
right, like
ourselves,
the
and looking at
quantifiable facts.
how
One
it
is
doesn't
one,
work.
two is two,
This isn't
two plus two
working.
equals
This is
four.
not
Those things that we
doing
can
what it's
actually
supposed
measure,
to
right?
do.
Those are very concrete. It can help us
And that's
navigate these
also a
emotions.
rough thing to deal
We
with.
still have to
That's not
feel them.
easy.
They still have to flow through us.
It's not
But it
easy
helps us
to
direct the flow and make sure that there's not
stop a
anything
relationship.
pulling,
It's never been easy.
pooling, P-O-O,
But again,
creating a puddle and
when it's
stagnant,
necessary, sometimes we have to do it.
within ourselves.
Sometimes we have to really stop the waters from flowing somewhere that aren't feeding us, that aren't healthy to us. But with that in mind, let's go to the oracle cards, because I can go on and on about that topic. So let's set you over here, and then we'll put you, we'll just make some adjustments. So, just so. What exercise can we use in this situation? Those who chose the many doors tarot. Because that's the other thing about trust your vibes. I don't know if I mentioned this already, but trust your vibes, why I like it, is the straightforwardness. And it also presents exercises one can do when it comes to self-reflection and becoming more in tune with your intuition. Time for crayons. How funny. Let's see what else we've got. Uh-oh. Ooh. Separation. Okay. Yeah, stick a pin in that, because I definitely have thoughts with those two cards showing up. Balance. So from the Trust Your Vibes Oracle deck, We have Time for Crayons. From the Oddities, Oracle of Oddities, we have Separation. And then from Earthbound Oracle, we have Balance. So let me tell you let me tell you two reasons why I chuckled when I first saw this one. Like I said before, Trust Your Vibes provides pretty great exercises. And as childish as this may seem, sometimes that's what we need, right? That's what we might need right now. In a moment of grief, in a moment when things are going rough, and when you have to deal with the ending, especially in a relationship, sometimes you need a hug. You need all the things. I think it's one of those moments that reminds people that, like, you are still a human being and you're a child. And sometimes tapping into what your child version of you needs is a great way to soothe. Because if anything, kids need to be soothed constantly. The world is so complicated and they're just now experiencing a lot of things for the first time. So even as an adult, when we might, this might not be our first heartbreak. This might not be the first time we've ended a relationship, ended a connection. It doesn't change the fact that it still hurts. And so Time for Crayons could be a good way to just get whatever expression you need, whatever your emotions you're needing to get out. Maybe you need to color something. Maybe, you need to, it means crayons, but sometimes you might just use some paints. You're sad, paint that through that sadness. This could be physically, this could be virtually. There's virtual coloring books. Something to get whatever you're feeling out onto something else, to pour that energy out, get that emotion out, flowing out of you and not holding it in. And then the reason why I laughed, again, the second reason, is because this separation image, which, features scissors and this figure, this skeletal figure that seems like it was conjoined. And then there's the heart, a muscle, the muscular depiction of the heart. It made me laugh because it's very similar to the stick figure you're seeing in Time for Crayons. But again, it speaks to, it's just a fun parallel that I noticed. But also it speaks to, the theme for this reading. The heart is considered central to a lot of emotional things, to our relationships, how we can, like I said, connect with other people. There's the heart chakra, which deals with how we connect with other people. And funny enough, I remember reading this in the heart chakra chapter of Eastern Body, Western Mind by Anodia Judith. I'm still working through that book. It's been some years, but it's a good book. I definitely recommend it. But there's a part about the heart chakra where it talks about how it deals with love, and part of it is it deals with grief as well. And grief is a pure sign of that the love was there, right? But you have to be willing to let things go sometimes. You can't hold on to it forever. And so getting used to separation is something that's necessary. And that's why it's also necessary to have practices that help make separation, help soothe ourselves as we endure separation. Because it's not easy, right? Like there's nothing about this that looks fun. Something's getting split in half. This isn't meant to feel fun. This isn't meant to feel good. We have to come up with healthy coping mechanisms to deal with it feeling good. Because I'm thinking of surgery, right? When you're dealing with, something, say a growth or something cancerous, they're going to have to cut it out of you. They can't allow it to continue to grow. And that's not easy. Sure, they put you under, anesthesia, obviously, because you can't endure someone going through that. That sounds terrible. for someone being aware of that. But there's pain. You're going to feel pain afterwards. But it had to come out. It had to get cut out because it was doing more harm than good. And that is, I guess you could say, the not ironic, oxymoronic, I guess would be the word. Either way. But that's where the balance, I think, comes in as well, is navigating those emotions, navigating what we're feeling. Because in this card, and I don't know if you can see it, but this is a stag type figure. But there are also wings. And then there's an acorn where the wings meet, and that looks close to the heart as well. But then in the antlers are feathers, and then at the center of it is also a spider's web. So it's all these things connected. And so it's like a little community of sorts in this image. But it's like good to have that balance, and again, knowing where you put your energy and whatnot. And that's why I think the 7 of wires is so crucial, because a lot of people will sometimes, when the 7 of wires shows up, like I said, traditionally known as the 7 of swords, it can denote deception, is what they think of. Because 7 is a number of reflection, and swords are about the mind. And maybe sometimes we deceive ourselves or whatnot, and sometimes there might be some trickery afoot. But sometimes, like I said, we might be deceiving how we're perceived and whatnot. But sometimes we, do it so for survival. Sometimes it's not about. Sometimes the trickery isn't us tricking other people or anything like that. Sometimes it's us it's using the swords or using the wires and making the connections we need to get ourselves out of something, something that if we didn't get ourselves out of, it would do more harm if we stayed there, right? And so maybe it's this grieving period that we might be going through. So yeah. And then another thing that I like about the balance card is the sense of organization that comes into play. And I think that's also why it connects well with the 7 of wires card. It takes clear thinking to put all of this together, and with all of these different creatures and aspects. But that's just another theme about that. And yeah, so those are the messages for those who chose the Many Doors Tarot. We definitely thank you for these messages. And we're going to move forward.